There are things that you need to continue to consider when you're looking at using visual supports for anything, and you need to think about sort of some planning needs. Right? So again, remember, we talked about this yesterday morning. You need to think about your purpose. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? You're not going to accomplish everything all at once, right? Pick something, one thing, and think about what is it that I want this student to learn or to be able to do? How is a visual support going to help this student? What kind of visual support is going to be most appropriate? But really start with having a purpose, right? Because you can't achieve everything at once. So decide what it is you want to accomplish, and then think about, okay, for this target student, what kind of representation is appropriate? Right? So remember, we talked about symbol assessment yesterday morning. You need to know, is a graphic symbol appropriate? Is a photograph better? Is this a student who needs an object cue? Can this student read? Could we use text? Right? So you need to have a purpose and then think about what kind of representation will I use? What's best for this student? Then you need to think about what kind of visual support will help you meet your purpose. Do you need a visual schedule? Is this about transitioning from one task to another? Is this about learning the little steps of a single task? Do I need to help an individual understand the consequences for a good behavior versus a not so good behavior? Do I need a contingency map? Do I need to provide the individual with information about the social context? Are there things about the social environment that the person doesn't know? Social narrative might be appropriate. Is this about helping the student be able to access and participate in academic instruction? If so, a modification then around academics is needed. So think about what kind of visual will help me get what I want for this student. Then think about how you're going to create your visual supports. Right? Boardmaker and Symbol Sticks Prime are two options to use in terms of supports. We talked about some others as well. Laminate, Velcro, like think about all of that. Right? This all goes into the planning and preparation. If it's just a one-off visual support, you're only going to use it once for one particular class activity, there is no need to laminate, right? Although save these things, right? And if you're making modifications for teachers, right? Teachers tend to do Romeo and Juliet every year. If you make modifications for Romeo and Juliet, save them, right? Lots of schools are starting to have libraries of modifications that teachers and SEAs can use. Some districts are starting to have libraries at the district level of materials that have been modified so that anyone in the district can then go and access it, right? Because there are more than one teacher doing Romeo and Juliet who could probably all benefit from the materials. Rather than everybody making the same materials over and over again, wouldn't it be better if we make them once, right? Some schools get together and do sort of like a once a month make and take, right? Order in some pizza, staff stay late, we've got some things that we want to adapt, we work on it together, and then we save everything so we can use it again next year or share it with other people, okay?
Sorry, can this be borrowed by parents in the library, or?
Can this be borrowed by parents? So it depends on what the resource is. If it's a scanned book that the parent does not own, no. But if the school makes a bunch of stuff and offers it for the parents, there's no reason why it can't be available for the parents, right? If you need help making visuals, right? If the time part is the issue, I don't have time to make them, then start getting creative. Look at school volunteers. Look at student volunteers, either at the high school level or university students. Are there students in the SEA program or the ABA program who might like to help with these kinds of things? Are there SLP students who might like to help with these kinds of things? Can we find some willing volunteers that would like to help? Can we use peers? Right? So sometimes kids within the school can do this, either as part of a peer tutoring program or as part of their own work experience hours or as part of a class, right? I could have an English class doing adapted versions of Romeo and Juliet and other novels and whatnot as part of their English work, because the ability to take information and convey it in another format, that's a skill that demonstrates your comprehension of the content, right? That's part of the skill for typically developing students. Why not have them do something that's useful for other people, as opposed to just writing their report that says they understand what Romeo and Juliet was all about, and then it gets thrown away once they get their grade, right? Why not have them demonstrate their understanding in a better way that then can be used by other students who need adaptations or modifications, right? So get creative. There are also online resources. You have to be careful about getting good online resources. Just because it's online doesn't mean it's good, because anybody can put anything online. But if you're a BoardMaker user, BoardMaker Share is available through Mayor Johnson. It's free, you can join, it's a share community. Everybody around the world who uses BoardMaker can upload things that they make and can download things that other people make. And it's essentially a searchable library of stuff. And there's all kinds of stuff. Again, some of it is good, some of it is not so good, because anybody is making it. But it's a great place to get some ideas. Sometimes I'll download something and go, I mostly like it, but I want to change a couple of things. Well, they're BoardMaker files, you can change them, right? So you can adapt them to meet your needs too, okay? So if I've done what I usually have done in these workshops, I've overwhelmed you. Have I done that? Are your brains feeling full? And you have lots of ideas? And you want to go home and like fire up BoardMaker or something like right away? Yeah, okay. So you'll get very excited. What I kind of like to remind people is that it's a slow and steady wins the race kind of thing. Don't go home and try to like make everything all at once, right? Because you can't really sustain that. Some of us try and we do for a little while and then it all kind of peters away. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling like I've got so many ideas, make a list of all your ideas so you don't forget them, but kind of work on a couple of things at a time. Don't try to solve everything all at once because that's very overwhelming. And if you're a parent, you certainly have other things that you need to do. And if you're working in schools, you have many other things that are demanding your time as well, right? So don't try and fix everything all at once, but kind of pick one or two things that you want to focus on implementing, get those up and running, and then start another thing and another thing and another thing and sort of pick your way through, right? Gradually add over time. This can grow into a large animal, right? When I was teaching in the classroom, there were symbols everywhere. I had symbols all over the place in my classroom. I had communication boards. I had stuff for PECs. I had adapted materials. I had adapted books. But all of that happened over years, right? Over years of building. So expect that, you'll continue to build over time. I wanted to end with a quote from Temple Grandin, who is very well known for talking about her preference or really that visual thinking is the way that she thinks, that she does not really think in language, right? And she often says her brain is like Google Images, right? And I think that that's important to recognize. Now, not all individuals with autism think the same way she does, but many do. And I think it's really important when we're thinking about our learners, whether they're children or adults, that we meet them at least halfway. They're already often struggling to learn new things and engage in appropriate behaviors and do the things that we want them to do, right? And I think that many individuals with autism, as well as those with developmental disabilities, have real significant challenges understanding spoken language, understanding what we're telling them, remembering what they're supposed to remember, following verbal instructions, and so on and so on. Visual supports can address a lot of these challenges. It helps us to meet them halfway. And if we meet them halfway, if we reduce the challenge in terms of understanding what's going on and the stress of trying to remember what people expect from us, if we can reduce some of that, then we're leaving them with some resources to actually learn and engage and participate, rather than putting all of their energies just simply in trying to understand what people are telling them, right? So I think that that's an important thing to go away with, thinking about using this as a support that enables our individuals, whether they're children or adults, to more effectively engage and participate and learn.